Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hunt Club podcast. Today we have a product briefing with John Mancini. John is a very familiar face on our show, but John, you want to say hello to the audience?
Hey, folks, happy to talk to you all again about some exciting new stuff.
Yes, the exciting new stuff is Vectra AI's 360 response. And we're going to talk about what this is, why it matters, and how it helps security teams actually stop modern attacks. Just a brief overview. When we talk about 360 response, what exactly are we talking about, John?
So, we're talking about a solution to the challenge that teams need to be more proactive in stopping threats. We have proactive detections, that's great, but teams can't always be around to stop a threat. They can't jump to another tool to stop a threat. So, they need a means with which to authoritatively stop it using the technology specifically that's designed to stop threats, not something that suggests a stopping point like TCP resets. And that was the challenge that we solve with this 360 firm. The outcome is ultimately people can manually or automatically, with the help of AI, stop threats before any damage can happen from the Vectra console, essentially.
Mhm. And there's this headline here saying operationalizing control with 360 response. What do you, in your opinion, what does that exactly mean? I think you alluded to it, but let's deeper here.
So, in the current threat landscape, organizations are getting attacks that span multiple systems. No, nothing just lands in one system. They land on a device, they move to another device, they pick up an identity, they bypass EDR, they bypass other preventative controls. The thing that kind of is about operationalizing control is about having the ability to stop a threat, not in one place with one means, but with all the places that are necessary and effective at stopping an attacker in all the ways they move. And that's what we've designed this system to be, is really a wherever the attacker is, you have the means to stop them.
About the modern network and how modern attacks permeate through all of these different types of layers, traffic, identity, device. So having the capability, the response capabilities to answer at each level or each layer is imperative to actually having that control over the attacks. So I think I want to dive a little bit deeper into these layers that I'm talking about here. First with device lockdown. What is this? What is device lockdown, John?
Yeah, device lockdown is one of the kind of three pieces of the 360 response narrative. What it does is, if any device has an endpoint running, and that's supported with a Vectra integration, we can orchestrate the host isolation event on that endpoint through the system. And so, what does that mean? That means that an analyst can either configure the system for whenever our AI agent scores a system as a high threat at the configured threshold that the customer sets, we can issue that host isolation to the EDR, and that host will be isolated for an hour, for 2 hours, for 24 hours, for the length of time that the analyst chooses to give them enough time to go look at it, but to also let them have a full night's sleep, let them have time to get to that. Really, it's about making sure that response action happens and that they have time to get to the system to take the next logical steps. It's doing that automatically, but it's also giving the option manually in the flow of their investigation. As they're going through and reviewing the attack graph, as they're reviewing the sets of detections and some of our other integrations that help really drive outcomes, they don't have to pivot to CrowdStrike. They don't have to go log in. They don't have to have credentials even there. That network team can hit that lock button and stop the threat pretty decisively, tell them to go reimage the machine, all those things, but do it right from the console.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to tie in another like new feature that we talked about or we're talking about recently too, EDR process correlation. You should check out the podcast about it, but John, can you tie that in with device lockdown right now?
I'll give the quick preview. NDR plus EDR, there's just a lot of goodness that comes. They both achieve different outcomes. Together, they achieve an outcome, though, that's more powerful than the two parts independently. And one of the things that we built out is a new integration with CrowdStrike, others are going to come, where we can pull process information for a Vectra MDR detection. So C2 channel kicks off, what was the process that was running underneath? What are the other relevant processes that you need to know? Having that context lets you operate more confidently, more quickly, and ultimately saves you time and really enables teams to operate with more automation on their side.
This is all on the Vectra UI. This is basically all
Yep.
on it. And it ties back to what you're saying. Like you can lock down that device within the Vectra AI platform too, with the context that you need, with the process context that you need. So I think that's very powerful. But that's device lockdown. So we also have traffic lockdown. This is where we're really like contrasting with what we talked about when it's TCP reset. But what's fundamentally different about traffic lockdown here?
For a long time now, the definitive way to say an IP in my network can talk to the internet is the firewall. We organizations use it every day to configure out what can communicate outbound. And that is what we've used as the integration point to control the traffic of an asset. And so what organizations can do is same exact thing, specify a time, AI thresholding, all those things, but they can orchestrate instead of in the last kind of example and a host isolation, they can orchestrate basically a block at the traffic level, at the firewall using this integration. And so to get below the technicals, using the dynamic list functionality that's supported by firewalls, Vectra will publish those IPs that are suspect of being compromised or been noted as compromised through that manual action. And that will then populate a list. That endpoint on the Vectra appliance can be contacted by the firewall to pull that list. And then the firewall rule that the customer defines, so full control over what response really looks like in that environment, will then orchestrate on that list. And firewalls, we know works for firewalls, but there's lots of other tools actually in the modern network that rely on those dynamic lists. And even SOARs can pull from that list. So any traffic response you want to take, all you have to do is hit that endpoint and you'll know exactly what the assets are that you need to take an action on to ultimately proactively stop a threat.
But what I'm understanding from traffic lockdown is that instead of temporarily interrupting network traffic with something like a TCP reset, you're actually enforcing real network containment, just really stopping the attacker at their tracks.
Yeah, the classic thing we talk about when we think about TCP reset is in Cobalt Strike as an example, there's literally a flag that just says ignore TCP resets that
Yeah.
like let an attacker just be like, that's great. That's great that you suggested that I stop. Please allow me to continue. By the way, I'm going to spin up a backup channel and I'll continue on even if you try to do this again in a different way. The firewall just shuts it down. The attacker can't get around it. Firewalls were designed and are built to stop traffic. And so that's the best way to stop an attacker.
And that's what we mean by definitive authoritative control here. We're letting the firewall do its job, but from the Vectra AI platform. So that's awesome. Our last layer is identity lockdown. So we know that identity-based attacks are everywhere right now. So what does this mean? What does identity lockdown mean for the Vectra AI platform here?
Yeah, the scenarios that we're seeing that are active right now are attacker lands on a device. They potentially, there isn't an EDR. About 40% of devices don't have EDRs. More than that, actually, don't have EDRs running on it. Maybe there is an EDR. The attacker's crafty bypasses it. They get moving on the credential side and they use that to move laterally. Or what we really see is common, about 80% of attacks are happening where attacker steals a token, basically, and replays that token to use a credential that they find on a device in the cloud. The opportunity, though, is again to be proactive to stop this. And so what we have is a capability that integrates with both on-prem Active Directory as well as Entra ID to orchestrate several different options for response, be it disable the identity, be it force kind of an MFA reprompt on that identity, or most recently, we're rolling out password reset, something that essentially we're recommending everyone almost enable for all their accounts that are suspect compromised. Because what a password reset does, a user gets basically an MFA reprompt. So their sessions are signed out. The attacker is signed out. If the attacker stole a token, that token is invalid. And now the attacker doesn't have the password. The user are creating a password and their day continues. Like SOC team doesn't have to be engaged. They can take care of this. This can happen anytime, day or night. Operations, business continues forward without any issues. And so it's a really powerful way to, again, be proactive and stop the threats that ultimately span devices, identities, the cloud at large.
Yeah, this sounds like a feature that is it removes a huge amount of attacker leverage without needing to heavily disrupt day-to-day activities. Like it's minimal disruption to the average user.
Exactly. Nobody likes to reset their password.
Yeah.
You do it.
Yeah.
And what really nobody wants is a full on data breach.
Hmm.
And this is how you stop those is you take that proactive. And the only reason why we feel confident in enabling these types of things is we ultimately prioritize so few things for customers because we're doing such a good job with
Right.
that AI prioritization or AI agents or AI triage that it really becomes tenable when you only have a handful of things that you are asking for that password reset for. It's manageable. Customers won't notice it. The same user is not going to have their password reset probably in a year, if not more. So it's a one time thing that just makes sure everyone's secure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, to wrap it up, I have a sort of big question for you. We're gonna zoom out and talk about and think about 360 response. How do you think 360 response, Vectra's approach to 360 response, changes the way SOC teams operate day to day?
I think it allows them to take that proactive posture where they are stopping threats as early as possible, as decisively as possible. And those are the two things that I keep hearing from folks is we need to stop the threats. We need to be proactive. Our organization needs to be proactive and we need to be decisive. Leave an account that's still active as part of the threat progressing. We can't
Yeah.
leave a device still with the opportunity to communicate out until we've fully done the remediation. This is how you get that. You get that proactive stopping of threats, really control, and then you get that confidence in that you're doing the right action to solve the problem.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that this really puts Vectra as one of the leaders here because it's that those three layers. It's those three layers that cover the modern network, that cover modern attacks. Yeah. Thank you so much, John. Any last thoughts for our audience here?
No, I'd say please, the last thought always is please enable this and
Yes.
enable your integrations with your ADR, turn it on, enable the password reset for Entra ID, enable the AD lockdown component for your regular AD, and enable the lockdown at the traffic level, definitely. All these things, they can be automated, but
Mhm.
you can also put them on as manual options to securely orchestrate these things. And so
Absolutely.
it's really a powerful way to get that proactive security. I can't strengthen that enough. This is how teams can be more proactive.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, John. Audience, what excites you about this? Have you heard of these three layers, device, identity, and traffic? Do you think that this is a game changer in terms of your security program? Please leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for your time, John. It was great, as always. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye. All.
Bye bye.